Hey everybody, it's Sean from Rainier Arms, and today we got some awesome guests in the house doing a series of interviews to get to know the people behind OA Defense in the 2311. So today who we have is Dave and Johnny, and we're going to spend some time talking about the platform, talking about them, and also just talking about in general the company, you know, the why, the who, and get to know that they are more than just an awesome pistol platform, that they are a family, they are friends, they are shooters. They are the people that we want to buy into and the people that we want to support when it comes to firearm industry stuff. So first off, Dave, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? You know, what's your role with OA Defense and essentially where you're from, all that good stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Dave and I'm a 3-gunner. Is this not the support group?
No, it's not the sport.
My bad, sorry. I'm Dave Wollman. I am the VP of Brand Strategy for OA Defense and also one of the original co-founders and co-designers of the 2311 platform. My day-to-day role within the organization is primarily the front-facing side of the business. So all of the customer interaction, community engagement, all of our marketing and sales initiatives kind of fall under my day-to-day operational abilities. My background, I am as I just said, a 3-gunner. I've been shooting competitively for the better part of, going on probably 10 or 12 years now. I also dabble in USPSA, play around with some Steel Challenge stuff, things like that. So been in the firearms industry for quite a while. It has always been a deeply rooted passion of mine. Growing up in Pennsylvania, I was fortunate enough to have a family farm that we grew up on shooting guns since I was probably 5 years old. And that has just kind of grown into a passion and a profession for me. So been around it for quite a while, and it's been a really fun adventure getting to now develop this and build a company and an organization and a team around this platform. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, from my standpoint too, I can say it's awesome when you get to take the things that you love and call that a job.
Yeah.
And get to work around it, and it's great because I'm blessed with that, and I can relate when it comes to that for sure.
A lot of people say don't turn your hobby into your profession, but this is one of those rare instances where it has worked out really well.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we just haven't hit the burnout point yet. You know, we're still in the honeymoon, the honeymoon phase where it's still all, rainbows and butterflies and all that stuff. So Johnny, tell me a little bit about you, where you're from, who you are, and what your relationship is with OA Defense.
So I'm Johnny Moffitt, 20-year veteran of U.S. Army Special Operations. Grew up in a small town in northeast Arkansas, raised around hunting and fishing, outdoor activities my entire life, sports. During my time in the military, became involved with the action shooting sports, and primarily 3-gun, but dabble in USPSA, 2-gun, and then like the tactical style 2-gun matches as well. This became a passion for me, have some other family members that are in the firearms industry, and then I met the guys at OA Defense, Dave in particular, and now my primary role is I'm a brand ambassador, sponsored shooter, and I dabble a little bit in the R&D and testing.
From my understanding, it was more than just a little bit. You actually had a pretty good impact in the R&D aspect of these firearms, both from the instructor standpoint, getting the gun out in front of people, but also the shooting and just getting the real world feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you ask, I guess. But yes, definitely. I've been teaching within the firearms industry, both pistol marksmanship, carbine marksmanship, tactical 2-gun marksmanship for a number of years. And yeah, I've been getting these pistols out in front of students and getting hands-on. And so far, everybody likes what they see.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. So Dave, just like a elevator pitch, if you met somebody and they wanted to know, what is OA Defense and what is a 2311?
Yeah.
Why is it cool? Why should I get it? Don't get into too crazy detail, just that elevator pitch. Give us a little spiel on it.
Yeah. So it can be broken down into 2 buckets, right? The who and the what. So as far as who goes, who are we? We really are a team of shooters, and we are a team of gun enthusiasts, and, freedom, faith, and family are our 3 F's that we really believe in. And it might sound a little cliche, but we really let those principles drive all the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis as a company and as a team. The what is obviously the OA 2311. It's in front of us right now. And it was really, the 2311 was the impetus behind starting OA Defense. We wanted to bring a pistol to market that was going to help bridge the gap between what was out there in terms of high-end striker pistols and those custom striker pistols, and that chasm of a step up to your really high-end, high-performance race guns, which you were going from the $1,500 price point up to the $4,000 price point. And there was nothing in between, and there was no real marriage of the performance of these high-end pistols and the reliability of these striker guns. And so we really set out to create a platform that was going to give you really a best of both worlds, all of the performance benefits without all the pain points of some of those high-end race guns, and the reliability, durability, and versatility of the duty guns that were on the market. So we think we did a pretty good job with that, and all the feedback that we've been getting has been very positive, that we hit the marks on that, and so it's been an exciting process.
Yeah, and we'll get into it some more, but I mean, there's been growth pains, and you guys have trudged through it, taken care of it, and it's just awesome. And again, we'll get into that stuff some more. What would you say was the primary, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but what was the primary inspiration for the 2311? Not just OA Defense, because that's the name and everything, but this labor of love, this child, what was the inspiration?
Yeah, so early on when myself and the other co-founders got together, it was really a conversation, and we owe a lot of it to our co-founder Todd. The idea and the concept of melding a 2011 style double stack 1911 pistol with a more reliable magazine platform kind of came from that, and it was a conversation that started to evolve into why does the gun that we all want to exist not exist yet? Why is nobody doing this, right? And so, like so many other startups, it was we've got an idea, we see an opportunity, we see a space in the market for this. Now, how do we bring this thing to life? And it was no easy feat, but we were very fortunate to partner up with a fantastic investor who believed in the project, who saw the opportunity and the potential behind, the concept of this platform, and then really kind of figuring out, okay, we've got the building blocks, we've got the ingredients for this. Now let's go cook, right? And so it was about a year and a half long process of taking this from cocktail napkin concept into our initial prototypes, getting them out to SHOT Show, having them run at that first SHOT Show range day, which was a miracle in and of itself, right? And so and then the market feedback, market reception, and incorporating all that feedback into what would ultimately become the OA 2311. So it was a very much kind of a sequential process of concept to reality.
I remember there was a SHOT Show 2022 when it was released there, right?
23, yeah, SHOT 23.
23, yeah, you're right, 23. I remember holding on to them. I was in the training side with Rainier Arms Firearms Academy, and we were told to, hey, go check out the OA Defense, previously different, but the OA Defense 2311. You've got to check this thing out. And we went over there, and at first I was like, oh, this thing looks awesome. I started playing with it a little bit, and it was a prototype. And that's the first thing that was told to me. Is like, hey, it's a prototype, be gentle. And I was like, okay. So then I switched my frame of reference, and I was like, okay, I can see what's going on, what they're trying to do here. And I was like, I'm super excited about this. And then we ended up getting some in to shoot. We played with them a little bit, and I enjoyed it a lot, but I really enjoyed SHOT Show this year, 2024, went to the range day, and it was nice to relive it and just feel the difference throughout. It's kind of like my version of the cocktail napkin was a prototype. Seeing it from there and then seeing it out on the range and getting to shoot the Pro. That was the first time I got to shoot the Pro, and I was just like, dang, this thing shoots like, I think the Pro shoots awesome, in my opinion. We'll talk about the models and stuff here in a minute, but just to reiterate that, yeah, it was just really cool to see that from my perspective, that growth when it comes to the platform, where it started, and kind of what first hands-on was like. Yeah,
and that the very obvious progression from, like you said, the prototypes at SHOT 2023, which was, let's be honest, they were more spit and bubble gum than they were plastic and metal, right? So the fact that we were able to kind of come out with that initial launch, get the market reception that we did, we were really fortunate that people were willing to look past the fact that, yeah, this is just a prototype. Because let's face it, a lot of firearms companies don't go to market that way. Yeah. Most companies will develop everything behind closed curtains and then roll out when they have a final product. And we said we want to try this a little bit different, right? At the end of the day, we are our customers. So we thought it would be cool to kind of share that journey and that part of the process with the entire community. And so we were very upfront about that. And the progression and the advancement in consistency and manufacturing processes and quality and quality control and everything that happened in just that 12-month period between the first SHOT Show and the second SHOT Show was exponential growth. And it was fun to be a part of that, and to see it happen.
Well, it's fun on my end to be a part of it too. I'm kind of curious, Johnny, what was your first experience with the 2311? Was it as a prototype, or was it as a relatively finished or finished product?
So I would say at that point in time, this has been probably about 14 months ago, a little over a year ago was my first experience with it. I think we were kind of teetering from that prototype to that finished product at that particular point in time. But my first experience with it, a friend of mine had been talking to me for months on end about the 2311. Had a lot of experience with 2011s in the past, shooting competitively with those. And we went to a charity event. Dave was there, and that's when I finally got my chance. They had a range set up at the charity event, and I got approached and said, "Hey, you want to come shoot these pistols?" I'm not going to say no, right? So I go down there, and as soon as I put it in my hand, my first impression of this pistol was, one, just the ergonomics of the pistol. And the grip, I've got big hands, so the grip, just the way that it fit in my hand, the ambidextrous thumb rest, and then just how it pointed when I indexed it on a target. And then I got to shoot it and realized how flat it was. And from that point on, I've been a believer ever since.
Yeah, and so you spent some time on kind of that first prototype-ish kind of fully productive gun. And from my understanding, you put a lot of rounds through the first rendition that you were shooting. And has there been a good amount of change that you've noticed within the platform?
Absolutely.
And within how it operates and its reliability or its function or whatever it might be?
I wouldn't say necessarily reliability, because from day one, it's been a reliable pistol. I would say more just the small finesses are what really have been improved, right? So consistency in the triggers, the slides. One of the 2311s that I run on a pretty consistent basis, I mean, that thing feels like it is on roller bearings. I mean, it is just like glass. So I would say that it wasn't huge changes, it was the small finite details that really make the pistol what it is today.
Yeah, perfect, good. So getting a little bit more back to the company itself, how does the OA 2311 reflect the core values and the mission of OA Defense?
Yeah, so, the feature set that was kind of behind the design of the 2311 is, like you said, a direct reflection of kind of who we are as a company. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but being a company of shooters looking to develop a pistol for shooters, right? It sounds very vague and ambiguous, but kind of what that translates into is, guys who have shot a lot of different stuff that's out there and have all kind of come to a realization that there was something missing. And how do we kind of take all those different perspectives, right? Different backgrounds, we have military backgrounds, competition shooting backgrounds, law enforcement backgrounds, and then figure out how to marry that together into a single platform that kind of checks all of those boxes for everybody. And you've been in this industry a long time. Trying to make a one-size-fits-all firearm is no easy feat. And by no means is this a one-size-fits-all, but it was as close as we could get to filling that void that we all kind of recognized. And so, that's the product, right? And then kind of what we did to pour kind of the heart and soul of everything that we are and the team that we are behind this into this pistol. Everybody, we're a small organization, right? And so everybody from day one that's been a part of this project has played a role in bringing us to this point. Whether it was the management team, the design team, the engineering team, shipping, quality control, manufacturing, assembly. Everybody has had a pivotal role in getting us to this point. And so what you see in front of you really is kind of the result of all of those efforts across the board and kind of everybody putting a little piece of themselves into this project.
That's awesome. And I think that's the way it should be. And this is something that, like, off camera we were talking about was it wasn't just a couple of people who decided we're going to make this product and we're just going to build it and get it going and then that's just it. Like, it was that group, it was that family aspect. You had all those guys, and you've utilized people like Johnny, and you've utilized the feedback from customers and consumers of this is what we like, this is what we're noticing and all that. And I mean, that's in my opinion the secret recipe that most people need, is to be open to those criticisms, to be transparent with what's happening with the product, just like releasing a prototype. That's a lot of people wouldn't do that. They don't want you to see the bumps and the bruises and the band-aids and the scars that you went through. They just want you to see this is the finished product, which I get it, but at least for my personality and what I like as a consumer is like, I want to see those kind of things. I want to know that this thing isn't perfect from the start. It's built to be perfect. It's found its way to perfection, or as perfect as it can be for whatever situation it's built for, but it's nice. It's just nice to see that. And that was something, again, like I said, I was excited once I was told it was a prototype. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can get past it being grainy and it feeling a little bit weird, because I knew that because they're doing this, they care, and there's going to be an end result that's going to be pretty awesome to see. It's going to be pretty awesome to feel. And it's going to be pretty awesome to shoot, and it has been.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You know, it was something that when we made that decision early on, that we were going to kind of show the world what we were working on while we were working on it. We knew we had nothing left to hide behind. Right now, everything's out in the open, and so all of the bumps and scrapes and bruises that you mentioned, the speed bumps that we had to overcome, you know, they're all out there for the public to see. And you know, we did that because we realized that not many people are doing that, and we wanted to be the company that we as customers, as shooters, and want to interact with, right? And so, I think anybody can attest to this who has interacted with us over the last 12 to 18 months that we've been building and shipping pistols out to end customers. We've had our fair share of stumbling blocks and challenges we've had to overcome. But if you've ever purchased one of these pistols from us and had anything a little goofy going on, whether it was, hey, I want my trigger a tiny little bit lighter, or my slide's a little stiff, or I'm trying to run this particular ammunition and it's not feeding perfectly for me. We've always had an open door policy with that no problem. Let's get that running perfectly for you, whether we have to bring it back for you, you want to change out the size of the safeties, whatever it is. We've always been very upfront about working with customers, because this is something that we stand behind 100%. And it's not, at the end of the day, this isn't just a product or a piece of metal, right? Like I said before, this is kind of the heart and soul of everybody that's involved in this project. And we all put our reputation behind that, and it's something that we really do truly believe in.
Yeah, beautiful. Go ahead and kind of like describe the development process of the 2311. I know we can get probably really detailed and draw this on for a long time, but at least just give us an idea of, like, as a startup, you guys, did anybody on your team come from the background of manufacturing firearms? So if not, then like how did you kind of go about that? Because that's a big feat, to jump in. That's quite the overtaking.
We all have a very diverse background. Many of us have a background in the industry. We've worked for other manufacturers. We've worked for other aftermarket manufacturers. A lot of us had experience running smaller businesses within the industry, and kind of what that process looks like of, okay, I've got an idea, but what does it take to take that idea and turn it into a reality that not only people are going to want to buy, that they're then going to buy and be happy with, right? Because those are two very different things. And so, it's really easy to make one or two of something, and that was the prototypes. But when you go from trying to make one or two to now all of a sudden we have to make hundreds of them or thousands of them, and they all have to be exactly the same, and they all have to perform, and they've all got to be perfect. That's a massive chasm of a leap to make. And so we really did. We had to pull on not only our own backgrounds internally, but all of the industry connections and people that we have had the fortunate opportunity to get to know over the years, and lean on all those different diverse backgrounds and go outside the fence for assistance and get answers to questions, or help with, hey, we need to prototype this part, but we don't currently own the machinery to make that. So who do we know in the industry who can make this for us, make it right, and do it quickly? And then, again, there's so many, just dozens of people who had a role in this, who weren't even necessarily part of the company itself, but who believed in the concept and kind of stepped outside whatever they were doing to make time for us to again, get those parts prototyped and different iterations. I mean, on average, these pistols, they're a little bit different model to model, but they've got about 65 parts in them, and those, every one of those parts had to be developed independently, and they all had to get to a point where not only can we get them and make them, but now they've all got to play nicely together. And anybody who's ever messed with the 1911 platform before knows there are so many little finite engagement points in there, that from material to finishing to coating to every little engagement surface that's inside that gun is going to drive its safety, the trigger feel, the cycling, the action, the feeding, everything. So the long and short of it is, we knew early on that to make the platform that we wanted, we were going to have to move away from the traditional 2011 style magazine. And so, the first thing we kind of decided was what magazine platform were we going to use, and then it kind of became a process of how do we build the gun now around that magazine. And so that was kind of the development process that we used, right? Was starting with the magazine and building the gun around it, and relying on a lot of different inputs. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So did you guys always know that you wanted to have like a 1911-esque like blood going through it? So you picked the magazine, and then it was also like, I want it to be in this realm. I mean, that was kind of
Yeah, that really was the impetus and the catalyst behind this was, looking at all of these higher end race guns. They're all a single action only trigger. And anybody who has shot a good 1911 or a 2011 style pistol can attest to the fact that there is no substitute in a handgun for a really good, short, crisp, straight pull trigger. And the best way to accomplish that is, let's face it, still to this day, the 1911 operating system in the fire control group. And so we knew that was going to be a major piece of the DNA in this development process, because ultimately that's what we were trying to bring into the reliability and durability of the kind of striker guns that we were bridging that gap between. And so, like you said, there were all these boxes and these criteria that we had to hit. One of which is we've got to have a 9mm magazine that was natively designed for 9mm. We wanted to have, it had to be cost effective, easily available, and be something that was kind of ubiquitous in gun shops everywhere that people get a hold of, in supply chain pipelines for law enforcement departments and military units. And then we knew that, another big criteria was it's got to be a 1911 fire control group. And then the rest just kind of took shape around that. And a lot of it was driven, not just by our own kind of wants and needs and preferences, but what were the pain points of both of these platforms that we were trying to get away from, and in creating, really, let's face it, a new kind of category of pistol here. And so, the development in a lot of ways drove itself, and it was just a matter of figuring out, all right, we know this criteria that we have to hit. How do we achieve that? What pieces now have to be engineered and prototyped and revised over and over again to make all of these different things work together nicely?
Man, that would have been pretty cool to be able to just see just how that all happened.
A lot of late nights and aggravated emotional Zoom calls across the country. And, a lot of testing, a lot of rounds downrange, a lot of different iterations. But ultimately we were able to push through all of those challenges, and it was a challenge. Let's face it. Nothing like this comes easy, but it was a really cool process, to be a part of. So it's not something that any of us take for granted. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, from an engineering and designing standpoint, and I know this answer, and a lot of people know this answer, but what is the unique aspects about the 2311? Like, if there's one or multiple, what makes the 2311 so unique?
How long do we have?
Well, I know, that's right. Let's focus on the big parts.
Yeah,
so one
okay.
being, we already talked about it, the mag, What's the unique aspect there?
Yep. So, historically speaking, if you wanted to get into this kind of a platform where you were going to get that performance of that trigger, the accuracy, the build quality of a 2011, 1911 style pistol, you were limited to using what has become, now referred to as a 2011 mag, right? And through no fault of its own, it has had its own challenges over the years. It's a relatively expensive magazine. It's a magazine that does require additional maintenance and a close look at how's it functioning. It's got to stay clean, because at the end of the day, it was never designed to run 9mm ammunition. And so the stacking geometry of how the round stack inside of it was not conducive to 9mm. It's been made to work over the years, and now it's getting to the point where, it runs pretty damn well. But we knew we wanted to go to something that was a more cost-effective and natively designed for 9mm. So that's where we landed.
Mag, right?
Yes, exactly. But no, you bring it up. But yes, there was some back and forth and some discussion about, did we want to go the Glock mag route, or did we want to go the 320 mag route? And there were a few reasons for going the 320 mag route. Number one was the fact that now it has the contract, right? Everybody has these magazines. They are everywhere. It's a metal magazine body, right? So we liked that over the polymer bodies of the Glock style magazines. But the big one was just the feed geometry. The way a Glock magazine stacks the rounds, it's designed for a Glock grip angle. So it sits at a little bit more of an extreme angle. We probably could have made it work, but it would have been a more difficult journey to get there. And for all of those reasons, when you kind of combine them all, we realized, no, the 320 mag is the way to go. And it also gave us some additional benefits and ancillary benefits down the line that kind of came to light as we were developing. Just between the different aftermarket accessories that are out there for it, the magazine release itself. And we've honestly had a good partner in SIG. They've been open to us kind of developing this platform. The 320 magazine is an open source platform, and so there's parts of these pistols that we're still ordering direct. So just for small components and stuff like that. We'll talk about that in some of the cross compatibility, but. And just run down some of the features, right? So we talked about the magazine. So now you can get into this level of performance without having to spend an exorbitant amount of money on mags that you have to tune and clean all the time and maintain. In addition to the magazine, it's the first 1911, 2011 style platform that is completely ambidextrous from the factory. There's a couple companies out there that do some aftermarket stuff for like traditional 1911s, but it's the first factory-produced, fully ambi 1911, 2011 style pistol that's ever been built. The benefits of that are kind of self-explanatory, but it also has a lot of secondary and tertiary benefits for even right-handed shooters. It gives you the ability, if you need to go to your weak side hand to your left hand, you can. There's a lot of aspects of the ambidextrous feature set that also make it a great pistol for newer shooters and beginner shooters. They can get comfortable on this platform very quickly. In addition to your left and right side slide stops, your reversible magazine release, your ambi safety levers, you also have a thumb rest on both sides of the pistol. So having that to actually have your support side thumb, have a tactile index point, but also to have a tactile index point for your trigger finger, makes the pistol safer, and it makes it a great learning tool for when you're kind of first starting, coming in and out of holsters and drawing and everything else. It again just gives you those index points that will help you establish a better grip sooner. In the competition shooting world, it gives you a really good clean draw stroke, and you can establish that good strong grip, that master grip right out of the holster. So we have the fully ambidextrous feature set. The other big thing that we did is we moved away from the traditional bushing and linked barrel of a 1911, 2011 style pistol. Benefits there are a few-fold. Number one, it makes the takedown much simpler on these. So you don't need any kind of tools to take them down and field strip them. The recoil assembly is much simpler. You don't have to pin it in place or do anything to get the pistol apart when you're servicing it. And you also don't have to realign anything. You don't have your little figure 8 link dangling in there when you put the pistol back together. So for just working on them in general, it makes it a less intense of a learning curve to get into this platform. And just from everyday usage makes it a lot more convenient. The other thing that's nice is by eliminating that link, it actually cycles a little bit faster. So the way the barrel locks up and everything inside there increases the cycle speed of the slide. And so you get a lot of benefits from going that direction. The other big piece of this is the modularity. And so there's a couple different models up here, right? But you'll notice across them, the one thing they all share is a common polymer grip module. And so the size of the grip itself is driven by the magazine well, the mag well, and that is modular from one model to the next. And so it gives you the ability to get this performance, the fire control group, the trigger, and everything else in a platform that you can adapt to various different mission sets and applications. So if you get the compact, for example, you can pick up the full-size mag well for it, and in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, switch it back and forth from a 15-round EDC concealed carry setup to more of a full-size pistol that you can enjoy shooting a little bit more, whether you're at the range, whether you're running a competition, doing some tactical training courses, whatever it may be. Yeah, exactly.
So just for a quick reference there, those are both compacts, but one's going to be running a 15-round magazine, the other one's running a 17-round.
Exactly. Yep.
And they can be flush fit.
Yes, flush fit mags, exactly. Yeah. So it gives you more of that, kind of like a Glock 45 form factor, slightly shorter upper, but you still get the benefit of that full grip purchase on the pistol and a couple extra rounds of capacity.
Inversely, you can run the full size, and you can take the plus kit off, and you can run the compact, run a smaller mag or bigger mags if you want, for concealment if you want the benefits of a bigger gun.
Longer sight radius if you're not running the red dot, things like that.
Exactly. So the modularity aspect of it was something that I've always appreciated, because I like to have something that is multi-purposed or multifaceted, to where I don't have to go and buy, because I've had to do this too many times. Well, I've got this gun, which is great for this, but it's not so great for this. So now I got to go buy this other gun. And then me also being a shooter of higher end guns, you get those $100 mags, and you need 7, 10, 12 of those mags, and then all this stuff, right? So then it's like, well, dang. Now I need a support group. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's nice to be able to have that, because you can go from a duty gun to a carry gun to a range gun to a competition gun just by switching out things that are easily available. I mean, you offer those things. If you want to buy the plus kit after the fact, you can do all that. And that's pretty dang cool, because you can still be really efficient, understand and know that trigger, how everything feels, how the grip feels in your hand, and be perfectly functional and just be good at what you're doing. Yeah, so I appreciate that aspect a lot. And I know Johnny was talking about that earlier. He appreciates that aspect.
Yeah, but now we've let the cat out of the bag, and I can't use that as an excuse to keep buying more guns with my wife.
Well, we can edit that out. Yeah, we'll just give a little feature. Johnny's wife, don't watch this.
He needs everyone that he asks for.
Now my wife is going to be like, so that 2311, you're buying one, right? Because that's the only one you need. Yeah. When I told her I wanted a staccato, I was like, yeah, I won't need anything else, but. Here I am. Since then, bought a whole lot of other guns. So Awesome. I like it. I cut you off, any other unique features that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so one of the other big things about this, and we talked about wanting to kind of bridge that gap between the performance of the high-end race guns and the reliability of the striker fire duty guns that are out there. And that was not an easy feat to come up with, right? Because if you want the operating system of a 1911, there's going to be some pain points of a 1911 platform that you have to figure out how to engineer out, right? And let's face it, historically speaking, 1911s have great triggers, they're very accurate, but they're not known for being hyper reliable in less than ideal conditions, right? So if you introduce sand, grit, grime, dirt, mud, snow into most 1911 platforms, those tight tolerances and everything inside that pistol, you're going to start to gum up the slide. You're going to start to get some stoppages and malfunctions. And so we had to figure out, listen, if we want all the highlights of the 1911 and none of those pain points, what do we have to change to get to that point? Now, going to the linkless barrel was a big one for us because that removes one additional moving piece inside the firearm. But we also have a patented system of debris clearance channels inside the firearm. And so I'm sure we can break one of these down at some point, but if you look at the barrel lug itself, there's actually channels that are machined into the barrel lug. There is a cavity machined into the bottom of the dust cover of the frame, and the guide rod itself actually has flats and fluting in it, which are not just cosmetic. They're there to allow clearance in between the coils of the recoil spring and the guide rod itself, so that all three of those working in tandem together actually allow particulate and dirt and grime to kind of self-evacuate from the pistol while you're firing it. And so, we've done some testing. Our manufacturing facility is based out in Nevada, up in the High Sierra deserts. During development, we take these things out back, literally just put them into the desert sand, kick sand into them, pick them up, and run them. And are you going to feel some grit in the trigger? Yes, but they do just keep functioning and keep running without getting those stoppages that are prematurely induced by just stuff in the system. And it also means that they will run longer when they are dirty, right? We didn't want to build a pistol that you had to take down and clean every 200 rounds or after every match or after every training session. So listen, it doesn't mean we don't condone cleaning the pistols, of course, but they really are designed to be a tool for hard use. And that was a big part of the design process, was to get them to the point where we could not only say that, but believe it ourselves. And then outside of that, it's really just the kind of the ergonomics and the user friendliness and the general kind of ownership experience that just makes it a much easier transition process. If you're going from a striker fire duty gun up into the world of hammer guns now, just kind of that whole process makes it a lot easier now because it is simpler to take down, simpler to work on, and it's kind of easier to understand coming from a striker gun. And last but not least, we haven't even touched on it yet, is the optics compatibility, right? Almost every pistol today is air quotes optics ready, but that means a lot of different things to a lot of different manufacturers. Yep. And we kind of took that concept to the extreme and said, listen, if it's going to be optics ready, it needs to be ready to actually mount the vast majority of optics that are on the market out of the box. We don't want customers to have to spend an additional $150 to $200 just to put the optic of their choice on the pistol after purchasing it. And so all of our models do ship with not just the iron sight cover plate, but 3 different optic plates that are going to cover almost all the major optics that are out there. So the RMR, RMS, Holosun K, and the Delta Point footprints all ship with the pistols. And the plates have integrated iron sights on them, so you're going to get a lower third co-witness on most optics that are out there. And we do ship multiple different front sight blades with them too, so that you can actually set up your pistol with whatever optic it is that you're running for the application that you're after, again, right out of the box. And so it just makes it, again, that barrier to entry even easier. Yeah.
I love it. The options, giving options, giving the options. So there's one other thing that I want to point out that a lot of people, I personally, it has never affected me on a 1911 platform, but a lot of people hate them and they put a Ranger band or wrap them. Yes, so we're missing something on the back there.
One of our biggest features is the lack of a feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so doing away with that grip safety on the back of the grip, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. Again, this was a decision driven by looking at what are the majority of shooters who are using pistols in hard use conditions doing. And everybody, for the most part, is either pinning or banding the grip safeties on those. And so, we said if we're going to build this thing, why design that into it, right? The pistol itself is drop safe. They were extensively tested by independent testing laboratories to make sure that we had no issues with drop safety testing or any kind of firing issues when you didn't want it to, right? So. the reality is it just makes it, again, an easier platform to get into. Like I myself, my pistol grip, I have a very high tang pistol grip. And so like for me, shooting a lot of 2011s and 1911s, I have a difficult time engaging that grip safety when I'm trying to shoot for speed. And so, it's great to have a platform that you don't have to worry about that on.
Yeah, and I understand. I personally have never once had an issue with it. Now I probably will because I said that, but it just hasn't bugged me. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't hate that if it wasn't there.
Right.
Like, that's just one more possible thing that can go wrong, or one more possible thing that I can do wrong, especially having to switch, shoot around ports, do all the stuff where it's unconventional, and I don't just get to build up my good, strong grip. So it's just a benefit, especially when, this platform was built to be a duty gun with all the DNA of a race gun. Right. So I like it. That was just a feature I wanted to make sure we touched on, because a lot of people are very excited about that from the videos and things that we've done. They're like, oh man, there's no safety in the back? Nope, no grip safety. Don't have to worry about that anymore. But now you don't, where you're going to put your Ranger band.
I can still put it on there for looks. Why not, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You got to color coordinate your shoes,
Yeah, got to put that band on there. Any features that you love, Johnny, that you want to like kind of touch on, what has been real beneficial for you in the 3-gun, 2-gun, all of the different competitions?
Yeah, I think that just the just the modularity of it, really. The fact that basically they're like, you might have to be a little bit of a gunsmith, but like the safeties, for instance, if I want to go to the smaller safety on a full-size model because I want to carry it, the mag wells being interchangeable, just the modularity of it, being able to set by a gun and set it up for multiple different mission sets, like Dave said. So I do a lot of instructing too, so a lot of times that's what I'll do. If I'm teaching a class that's working from the concealed carry, I'll set one up, or I have one set up for a concealed carry, which I have the luxury, but I would just set it up for a concealed carry.
Oh wow, I got so many 2311s, I don't know what to do.
For testing. But no, just the modularity of it, and the fact that it does have, and I've been shooting for years, but Dave kind of touched on the fact that, like, for a new shooter, the index points with the ambidextrous thumb rests, and you can use that as an index point if you're a new shooter working out of the holster, trying that index point for your trigger finger, so you're not inside the trigger guard before you want to be. But those, like, the features of that are just, that's one of the things that just helps this gun remain so flat and return to zero so fast, because it literally, once you have that thumb on that index point, like, you're driving that gun right back into the target the entire time.
Yep. Beautiful. Now shifting gears, because I know we can talk about features a lot, and I want to, but now the next steps, you've released this, it's out to the public, and then obviously the next steps typically is manufacturers, we want to go to the next echelon, and that's going to be your LE and your military side, and got to keep in mind that this is still pretty new, right? So the fact is, like, it takes time for anything to get fully adopted by any sheriff's office or police department or any kind of military group. It takes some time. So what's that looking like for OA Defense right now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. When we built these, we set out to build something that was going to be used by those entities, right? And so, that gestation period of, getting pistols out to different law enforcement departments, federal agencies, military units, to put them through their paces and determine, are these going to work for our needs, and what aspects of this are going to be beneficial for our purposes. So we're at a point now where we've got T&E, or testing and evaluation pistols, out with about 3 dozen different departments and agencies around the country, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. And there's been a feedback from them that we've actually taken and incorporated back into the design and enrolled that back into different decision-making processes that we go through as we figure out what new models are we going to be rolling out and things like that. And so really one of the biggest roadblocks to major widespread adoption for these in the law enforcement military world is holster compatibility, right? And so when you come out with a new pistol platform, it does take some time for that gigantic ship to turn and to get all the holster manufacturers to realize that, hey, this is something real. This is not just a flash in the pan. This is something that we need to start developing around. And so we are fortunate enough, again, to kind of be able to leverage some of those connections that we've got in the industry to get all of the major holster manufacturers in the industry and in the community to start working on dedicated holster platforms for this. So you'll start to see in the next probably 30 to 60 days a lot of the dedicated dedicated level 2, level 3 duty holsters coming out for these. And there are, don't get me wrong, there are a handful, plethora of good holster options out there in the market right now, but there was that dedicated, level 3 duty holster that we needed to kind of, be the final domino to fall for the law enforcement world and the military world and the federal world to start adopting these. And so we're looking forward to that very shortly here.
So you've got these in the hands of some police officers,
Absolutely.
some LEO, and some of them even have purchased them on their own and are using them. Right?
Yeah, quite a few actually. There's a handful of departments around the country that are fortunate enough where they give their officers the ability to carry whatever pistol they choose to, as long as they can qualify with it and as long as it meets certain criteria for that department. And every department's a little bit different. They all operate under different rule sets. But one of the reasons why, and we get this question a lot, is for a 1911 or a 2011 style pistol, your trigger feels a little bit heavier. Well, the reality is this, again, they weren't built to be a thoroughbred race gun. They were built to be a duty gun, and as a result, they do all ship from the factory with a duty rated trigger in there. And so, we built these guns and engineered them and build them now to exceed NIJ standards. And so for a lot of different departments and agencies, they will require a minimum of a 4-pound trigger pull, especially on a single action only pistol. And so, they can be adjusted by the end user, of course, but that's why they are designed and why they ship the way they do right now. Yeah.
And you dropped a little bit of a hint before that there might be some changes coming that might be a little bit more conducive for the competitive side of the world. You don't have to talk about it.
There's some things in the pipeline there. Actually, Johnny has played an instrumental role in starting to develop that model as well. Ultimately, we've always had our eye on that as kind of the end goal, right? We all have a background in competitive shooting, so even though we're building duty guns right now, we want to figure out what is this platform capable of. In the Chevy model, what is going to be the Corvette ZR1 of this platform?
Yeah, Shelby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. All right. Or the Roush for whatever. But the idea again being what are the limits that we can push this platform to? And so since day one, we've been working on that kind of in tandem of what is the dedicated competition version of this going to look like? And obviously that's going to be different trigger components tuned to different trigger weights, different materials used in the pistol to add certain weight and balance points into them that are more conducive to competition shooters, different compensation options for muzzle barrel porting and things like that. So. Stay tuned for that one. In the next probably, I'll say 12 to 18 months, we'll be releasing a lot more details about where we're heading with that. Yeah,
that'll be cool to see. Because I do like the trigger. It's still very crisp. But yeah, for competitive, if that was all I wanted to do, it's a little heavier than I would like.
Sure.
But again, that's something that I'm pretty good at disassociating myself from exactly what I like and being able to put it into what was this for. This was duty. That makes sense. Yeah. Right? If you gave that to me, like this is 100% a race gun and it's got a 4-pound trigger, I'm like, you kind of missed the mark on that one just a little bit. So. Definitely cool, but I'm excited to see that coming up because I bet that's going to be sweet.
I can email you some finger workout exercises if you want, so the 4 pounds won't feel as heavy for you.
Oh, I've been trying. I bought this body online and I've been trying to figure out how to get the fingers better. So
yeah, we'll get there.
Working on it. Okay, so now from the shooting sports aspect, what sports have we been able to see the 2311 being utilized and being successful in? And we already kind of know, but. Is there a presence in that field already in the competitive field, 3-gun, 2-gun? Is there a shooter that is?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate enough to be joined today by a sponsored professional shooter in the competitive shooting sports world. So I'll let you kind of take that one away, kind of some of the different applications you've been running it in and what some of the feedback has been.
So professional shooter is a term used very loosely, by the way. So one of the things that I've done, when I go to a competition, I usually have my primary and my backup, right? Which a lot of us do, just in case something does go wrong. But I've never had to pull out the backup. But what I do have is, I have one that I've kind of tuned the trigger, done a little bit of work myself to get it down below kind of that 3-pound mark, between 2.5, 3 pounds, which for me, I really like because if I'm running high heart rate and everything else, I don't want like 1.5 pound trigger.
I agree. I don't go that low either.
Right. So I like that kind of between 2.5, 3 pound mark. So I've got one set up like that, and then I have one set up that is just completely stock out of the box. Right. Haven't done anything to it, but maybe put a light on it and an optic. And I let, everybody's interested, everybody's heard about them, but they haven't got their hands on one. Yep. So I like to let guys, after the match, pre-match in the zero bay or whatever it may be, hey, if y'all want to shoot this, come over here and shoot it. Because being a brand ambassador, it's kind of my job too, right? So, but so far, the biggest thing is, again, like we've already talked about, is just the features of the gun that are already built into it, whereas the traditional 2011 market, those are all things that you have to buy aftermarket and have added to the gun. And most of the time, not only added to the gun, but fitted to the gun, right? So you got to send it to a gunsmith, you got to wait to get it back. And then we offer a lot of those features already straight out of the box. So that's the biggest thing. And then the other thing is this right here, magazines, right? Yeah. So an inexpensive magazine, extremely reliable magazine. Like I don't have to worry about these. I've shot 2011s in the past, great pistols, nothing bad to say about them. But drop a magazine in the sand, it gets some sand in it. If you don't get that sand out, you might induce some feeding problems, right? You might have some malfunctions feeding wise. I haven't experienced that with a P320 mag. So that's another big thing that a lot of shooters like about the 2311.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm a big fan of. Is same thing. I got a lot of mags for my 2011s, and they're not cheap. And yeah, when I compete in the tactical games, they get dropped in the dirt and they're getting kicked around with me and sweaty and everything. And I've just made it part of my after each stage routine is pull the mags out, clean them, put them back together, which isn't a big deal when it's all said and done. But why? You know,
you don't have to.
If you don't have to, that's something else I could be focusing on, right? Yeah. So I definitely, I'm okay with the fact that you guys chose SIG mags over Glock mags. I do like the metal body a lot more than the polymer aspect. So I'm a big fan of it. I know there's some naysayers, it should just be Glock, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, that's just the way it is.
And there are pistols out there that do that.
Exactly.
There is something for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing is you've created, like you said, you wanted, these are the criteria we wanted and this is what it fit. It wasn't because you hate Glock, it was just these magazines fit that criteria and that's what it is, you know. Still on the competitive side, have you gotten a chance to shoot the like compact in a match? You've obviously shot the full size, but with that, have you noticed a huge difference when you're in the zone in your shooting? Can you tell personally a big difference between the full size versus the compact? There's going to be some differences, obviously, but is it like for those who are, the question is essentially based on if I'm on the fence and I want to get into the competition, the competitive world, but I also want that duty gun and I can't quite buy both, and I don't know if I want to just handle the fact that I'm going to carry a really big full-size gun, or can I get away with that compact, you know, like can I get away with that shorter gun in the competitive world, still shoot, do well, but then be able to walk away and carry it that same day? So have you noticed a big difference when it comes to the two platforms?
Not a huge difference. The Compact Pro, which is basically, we'll just use this model, this one's set up right here. So the Compact Pro,
they want to see it.
I've actually shot this one in a couple matches.
Okay.
And honestly, I can run this just as well as I can run a full size. Okay. Now this particular one, I shoot open division, so I have the luxury of having like ported barrels or compensators or whatever I want, right? And this particular model does have the slide cuts with a ported barrel, but this thing is ridiculously flat. Yeah. And I can run this thing, I would say, as hard or harder than the full size. Now, to your point or to your question, if we're talking about more of like if I wanted a one for all, right? If I wanted to make that one purchase, but be able to run it in a match and go shoot competitively, but also carry it for self-defense or home defense or whatever it may be, I absolutely think that the Compact or the Compact Plus or even just the Compact
with the Plus kit on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Compact or the Compact with the Plus kit, and obviously all it is swapping out a mag well. So concealed carry, obviously running the Compact, so you've got that concealability with a 15-round magazine. Throw the mag well on it, now you've got a 17-round mag capacity or larger, and you can run that in a match. I think that is, without a doubt, can be used as a duty pistol, can be used as a self-defense pistol, can be shot in matches, and I mean, I'm kind of partial to it, but the Compact Pro, I love that thing.
Yeah, I would say, you know, spring because it's not that much of a difference in price.
No, it's only about a few $100 difference.
Yeah, spring a little bit more and just get that because you are just going to have a better shooting experience in general. But I mean, that's just good to know because we get a lot of questions asking like, this is that situation of I'm trying to get into it, but I just don't have the funds to buy it all because that would be the easiest. Like, yeah, buy a competition gun, buy a Monday carry gun and a Tuesday carry gun, have your shower gun. You know, not always feasible. So I would agree the Compact would probably just, I mean, why not? It's like the best of both worlds. But again, not everybody wants to shoot that open division and have to deal with that. So that Compact, I think I think you hit it right on the head there.
Well, and it's worth mentioning, even the Compact Pro, you can get all the benefits of the Compact Pro, and you can have the ported barrel and everything else. And if you want to go and run in a competition setting where you can't have the ported barrel, we do offer a non-ported version. Or you can just pick up a barrel from us that's a non-ported and drop it in and go run that match in limited optics, whatever it might be.
I am glad you said that, because I think that's an area where a lot of people they just kind of overlook the fact, like, this is still like a 1911 build, but it doesn't have the same rules. Like, when I buy a higher end 1911, that barrel was fitted for that slide. I can't just go and get another barrel and slap it in and expect it to run. So if I were to buy that higher end and have it be ported, I just have to buy another gun if I want to run unported, right? So this, you can still run the cut slide and just run a non-ported barrel.
Absolutely, and now you're legal for TAC ops or limited optics, whatever it might be. Yep.
Exactly. So again, another really nice point.
Yeah.
Really nice point. Modularity is, I love modularity.
Yeah, versatility is king.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's get, we're jumping around a lot.
Sure.
We're talking a lot, and that's great. But something that is always going to be a huge question, and we've talked about it being a duty gun, is the quality aspect, right? T&E, quality. Talk to me a little bit about the approach that OA Defense has gone with when it comes to their T&E and what they're doing or what they have done in the past. Essentially, what is that process for you guys?
For T&E or for quality control?
I know it's different, yeah. So let's talk about T&E first.
Okay, yeah. So we started very early on. From the moment we had a functioning prototype, we started sending those out to any department that would allow us to, leveraging some of our military connections to get them out into the hands of the military small unit guys, and it just started basically just collecting and absorbing as much of that feedback as we could. What did they like? What did they not like? What did we have the power to adjust versus what was just going to be a reality, right? And so after all of that feedback was received and kind of put into the platform, now we get to the point of, okay, how do we build these and how do we maintain a certain quality bottom, if you will, and everything's got to be better than that, because we want to make sure that any customer who purchases these is going to get it and go, man, this thing is even cooler and better than I was expecting it to be. And so that kind of takes us into the kind of the QC aspect. And so listen, every firearms manufacturer has a slightly different process for how they go from, we're manufacturing raw components to we're going to turn it into a final gun, and what that testing looks like before that pistol is then ready to go out the door to the consumer. And so, I can speak to our process, right, which is, we in order to try to build this and build it at a price point that was going to hit the marks where we wanted to be, we had to figure out how do we automate some of the processes that were all done by hand in those really high-end 1911s and 2011s, right? And so, we start with a really, really high tolerance, or I should say low tolerance manufacturing process. And so, there's a lot of stuff that just does not meet with our specs, and it goes back to the drawing board. If we can rework it, we do. But ultimately, if it's going in the pistol, it's got to be within our very tight tolerances. And, by doing that, it means that we don't have to do as much hand fitting, but there is still, a good amount of hand assembly that goes into these. So every pistol that we ship has an aspect of, there was a real life human and a real life gunsmith who put that pistol together, fine-tuned everything, made sure that the trigger weight was exactly where it needed to be, that the slide was, fit exactly the way it needed to, that the cycling was exactly what it needed to be. And then, once it leaves the build room and goes into, final testing, we do have a test site on range. I'm sorry, a test range on site. We put a minimum of 20 to 30 rounds through every single pistol. We test every magazine that ships with every pistol to make sure that there's no weird little tolerance stacking going on between the magazine and the gun. And so and if there's any single little hiccup or anything that the test shooter doesn't like, even if he just goes, I don't like the way the recoil felt on that one round, it goes back to the build room. And so, and it'll come back again, and we make sure that everything that's going out the door is not just meeting with our criteria, but, is this a gun that I would put in my own holster to protect myself with? Is this a gun that I would feel comfortable handing to a law enforcement officer and saying, stake your life on this thing? Yeah. It's something that we take very, very seriously. And so, there is an extensive amount of, T&E on the front end and then QC on the back end that kind of went into this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. So, one thing that I've always appreciated, we've had a pretty good relationship with OA Defense, and I remember we got a batch in, and again, since you're very transparent about everything, we got a batch in, and I was playing with them, and I noticed just issues that I had to call you and just be like, hey, what's going on with these?
Yeah.
And what I can appreciate is you just had us send back the ones that we really were not happy with, and essentially just talk to me a little bit about that, like,
Yeah,
because most
absolutely.
people would not be one, they wouldn't want me to talk about it, right? They'd be like, no, don't mention that.
No,
you
it's
know,
not
and
something we hide behind.
yeah, and it was essentially things just slipped through the cracks
Mm-hmm.
apparently, or something, you know. But like, talk a little bit about that, because
No,
again, most people don't hear it.
Absolutely, and everything that I just talked about, all those QC processes and this, the stringent criteria that we hold them to, that doesn't happen overnight, right? You don't just build an entire manufacturing company and just nail it perfect on the first go around.
Yeah.
And so, from day one, we were building to the best of our abilities, but you're always going to have those speed bumps, right? And in the early days when we had a couple of gunsmiths who were now building a gun that didn't exist a week ago and learning that process from the ground up, depending on who built the gun, it might have gone out the door with a 4.2 pound trigger versus a 4.5 pound trigger. Was it within spec? Yes, but early on, those first production runs, you're always going to have those little gremlins in the system that they get through QC, but then by the time they arrive to you, maybe a magazine didn't make it into the test process in the early days, right? And so you get a mag that doesn't fit quite perfectly because it was out of spec. So goofy little things and these little gremlins that it just takes time to you can't fix what you don't know is a problem, right? You have to identify some of these challenges first before you can figure out a way to make sure they're not challenges in the future. And so, that was something that we, really appreciated about a lot of the early adopters, right? Rainier has been with us since day one as our, pretty much exclusive distributor on that side of things. And so, it's a relationship that we have really appreciated, because you guys didn't just say, hey guys, we ordered 30 guns from you and a handful of them aren't feeling the way we want them to. Sorry, we're gonna part ways, right? You guys were willing to work with us, realizing that was the first production run that we'd ever built. And so, we were more than happy to bring them back in, rework them a little bit, send them back to you guys, and make sure that they were exceeding all expectations. And so, now it's a completely different story, right? Different ballgame altogether, because now we've had a year and a half of manufacturing these, of training, of time on the platform to know all of these little things to look for. I think in the early days, our QC sheet might have had a 30-point inspection. Now I think it's like a 55 to 60-point inspection of things that we know to look for now, right? And so, like anything else, there were growing pains in the beginning, but we pushed through it and persevered, and here we are.
Yeah, I love it.
So just kind of add to that. So early on, when I first came on as a brand ambassador, a couple pistols got shipped to me. It's the one that I put 18,000 rounds through, right? So I put 18,000 rounds to a full-size 2311, and it was one of the earlier models, right? But just to show you kind of or tell everybody else where the company is as far as like how pleased we want the consumer to be with the product, right? So I ran almost 18,000 rounds through this pistol. And to be honest with you, I broke it, right? I was running plus P plus, just hot, nasty ammunition through it. And about 18,000 rounds, just before 18,000 rounds, it broke. Now, I say it broke. The gun continued to run. For me, it became kind of a safety issue. So, looking at the everyday shooter, how many people are actually putting 18,000 rounds through a pistol?
Yeah, it's pretty uncommon.
Right, that's pretty uncommon.
Yeah.
But as soon as I called Dave and Todd and the guys back at the facility and let them know, like, hey, this is what happened, took pictures, sent it to them, like immediately it was, hey, yeah, we're fixing that, or it's already been fixed. So yeah, we understand it. And I even made the comment, I was like, how many people are going to put 18,000 rounds through it? It doesn't matter, because the first person that does and this happens, they're going to call us, and we're going to make it right now. That's the kind of company OA Defense is. So it's just, I had to just kind of plug that in there real quick.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it's a great point.
Yeah, that is. I think that's very important, and that was something like we talked about off camera earlier. Was for me personally, like I want to know that, like, I will buy an early adoption something as long as I know I've got support, right? And that was the thing that I was excited about, was when we talked to you, when I experienced those issues, was it wasn't like, oh well, that's just the way they are, like, so what, sell them. It was yeah, give us those back, we're going to make it right. And same thing for you, is let's make it right. I'm okay with it, because there's going to be speed bumps. It's a brand new gun, it's a brand new build, it's new. There's going to be things that come up that are just unforeseen, and it's how you handle it after the fact, which is going to matter a lot. And so far, that's been great. I mean, I remember the last batch of 2311s that we got in. I was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to test these real quick. I'm just going to see. And I laid them all out, and I started pulling them all out and just looking for those friction points that I found before. And I walked away with a smile on my face. I was like, cool. I like this. Like, they took maybe not criticisms, but they took the facts of what they were, and they fixed them. Now we don't have to worry about that. I feel pretty confident now that what comes in, cool. It's going to be fine.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine.
Yeah, anybody who tells you that perfection is achievable on the first round of anything, it's not going to happen. And so, we got as close as we could, but absolutely, there were lessons to be learned in those early days. And so, we were glad to have had the opportunity to have learned them and to be able to, just make the product that much better and that much more consistent. So, absolutely.
Yeah. I love it. How does OA Defense incorporate customer feedback? Because I know you've gotten a lot of it, and I know I've worked with some companies where they don't care to hear it.
Yeah.
They don't know what we know, type of thing. So how does OA handle that?
Yeah, so it's no different. Listen, you guys are a major distributor, and you gave us feedback, and we incorporated that. But we don't take the feedback from an individual end user any less seriously, because to us, the end user is almost more important than a distributor. I mean, yeah, you guys are the ones that are paying the bills for us, but at the end of the day, that customer is the one who's going to drive the growth of the brand and has to be satisfied with that product. And so, every piece of feedback that we've ever received, even if we haven't acted on it immediately, it goes into the larger process of, what can we do to just dial these things tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until there isn't anything left to criticize. And so, listen, if that day comes, great. If it doesn't come, awesome. It means we're doing our job well. And so, in terms of a direct answer to that, we've got a couple examples. Some people have said, hey, I wish this trigger was a tiny little bit lighter. And so when we developed the Compact Pro model, that comes with a 1/2 pound lighter trigger. People had said, hey, we want to see some different colors on these, because when we started, you could have anything you wanted as long as it came in black. And so, yeah. And so we quickly said, okay, how do we roll something out that's going to, meet the needs of these end users? And so that's where the high desert finishes came from. So, we're fortunate enough that right now, we are an agile enough company that we can make these adjustments to course. And so, we love hearing from our end users that, hey man, I got mine, and this particular ammo wasn't playing nicely with the gun. So we go out and buy 10 cases of that ammo and figure out, can we replicate that issue? Was that a one-off, or is there something a little bit different? Does that ammo have a different COAL? Does it have a different diameter or pressure spec? Can we play with the spring weights? Can we do something? So there's a lot of little tweaks that have gone into the platform over the years to just continue chasing perfection, right? And so we don't have the hubris to think we're ever going to be perfect, but we're always going to continue chasing it. So, yeah, that feedback is critical for us.
I think that's the competitive side.
Yeah.
Also, we know we'll never be perfect.
Yeah.
There's always something to work on, which is what drives perfection. So, finishing remarks. Anything that you want to just say to the consumer, or just anything at all?
I think from my perspective is, really just thank you. We are genuinely grateful for everybody who has kind of become an early adopter of this platform, for, the market reception that we got early on that kind of alerted us to the fact that we were really onto something here. When we started this whole project, we thought, man, if we can sell 1,000 guns a year, that would be a great business model. And we realized after that first SHOT Show that we'd kind of captured lightning in a bottle, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a lot of people being willing to take a chance on us and being willing to kind of step outside that comfort zone a little bit and invest in a new platform, invest in a new company and in a new team of people that, prior to haven't set that background of credibility yet. And so, again, it's really gratitude from my perspective, and honestly on behalf of the whole team, for everybody who's been a part of this process and has allowed us to grow through some of those challenges and to continue pushing the envelope to the next level.
Anything you want to say, Johnny?
Not to just reiterate everything that Dave said, I'll go the other direction. If you're interested in these models and you are a competitive shooter or something like that, just reach out to me on social media, whatever. Let me know. I'll let you run the guns at the match. We can go over to Zero Bay and let you test them out or whatever, because I think a lot of people are very interested in it. They're just having maybe some issues or don't want to pull the trigger to try to, spend some money on a new gun that they don't really know yet. So, yeah, if you're interested in it, just feel free to hit me up. I'll be more than happy to let you run them.
Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you taking the time. I know this has been a long one. It's hot with the lights and everything, but
appreciate having us.
I think it was just very important, in my opinion, to get people to know the company, the people behind the company, and the product, because the product matters, but I think the people matter a lot as well. And I think we hit a lot of those good points. So thank you so much for your time today, Dave.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Johnny, again, thank you so much for your time. If you guys have any other questions, please leave them in the comment section. I know if I can't answer them, I know a couple people that can answer them for us. And definitely, like Johnny said, try to get your hands on. Find somebody that has them. If you're in the Wichita, Kansas area, stop by our Rainier Arms Firearms Academy. We have some rental guns. We have a range. We have things that you can shoot and touch, as well as our other locations in Auburn, Washington, as well as OKC. Can't shoot them there, but you can get your hands on and you can touch them. They are unique. They are really cool, and they can be a tool that can solve a lot of problems. And that's just what's important, in my opinion, is it's got to be versatile. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next one.